So I'm here with Ben Fisher. Ben's the design director on SkySaga, and we're here at Radiant World, and we're going to talk to you about how you got into the games business.
Okay.
And you can tell us all the exciting things that we're going to be seeing coming up in this awesome game. So how did you get... Well, all of them, yeah, of course. Now I've known Ben for quite a while. We are gentlemen punch your armours, and we do have a giggle with that. So tell us how you got into it all.
Okay. What, in games in general?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up with Apple Mac computers, and for some reason, most games that came out on the Mac came with the tools used to make them. So to me, making a game is as much a part of playing it as playing it is. So, like, all my hobby time went into using programs like World Builder that let you make sort of graphical text adventures, and Marathon, the Bungie game from years ago. So using the tools and editors from them just to make as much content as I was playing. So I just...
Whoa.
Oh God, that guy again.
It's happening just as we're here.
Yeah, it's going to be a stereo hand gesture.
It is, and it's working exactly the same. So, so from there, did you go to college or uni to study?
Okay, yeah. I went to Glasgow Uni to do computing science because I made games as a hobby, but at the time it was hard to find jobs in games, so I thought, I'll have a grown-up, sensible job and make games as a hobby. But while I was at uni, it occurred to me, someone's got to make games for real. So started applying, started trying to poke my way into the industry. I did a thing called Dare to be Digital in the University of Abertay Dundee, which is a 10-week intensive game prototyping competition. So that was my first real experience of games. And then that went on my CV, and then I started applying with that and ended up at a company called Acclaim in Cheltenham.
Yeah, Acclaim, we know them, So what were at that point in time, what were your favourite games to play?
Well, the games that sort of convinced me to get into the industry were Streets of Rage 2, just because it's amazing.
Of
the
course.
Best punching action in the universe.
Punching action.
Good. Obviously Sonic is pretty good as well. Riven was a big one for me. That was the sequel to Myst. The thing that it did that was so cool is instead of just being lots of random puzzles, you had to engage with a world and learn how to count in a fictional language and learn how to learn the culture of a people and then use that to solve puzzles. So really, really immersive, very, very enjoyable. And then Marathon by Bungie. It was a sort of Doom-style shooter, but had nice deep layers of story in the background. So you'd engage with computer terminals that would tell you big blocks of text that told a larger story of sort of AIs fighting each other. The thing you did is you mostly ran about and shot things and punched switches. Because instead of actually touching switches, you obviously punched them. There, you know?
Well,
but I spent as much time making games with that as I did.
And so Acclaim, what sort of games were you working on at Acclaim?
At Acclaim, I worked on a tie-in game to the TV series Alias. For quite a while. That was a project that grew in scope as we worked on it, so it ended up continuing for longer than we expected. And then worked on a lot of pitches that never actually followed through. So there was like a sequel to Alias, and there was an underwater horror game, and then there was a Nazi zombie horror game.
Which were always really good because I think, again, zombies are very popular in our culture at the moment. So you go from Acclaimed, you then move into
Blitz Games.
Blitz Games Studios.
Acclaim sort of mysteriously just fell over, and we all found out we didn't have a job on IGN the following Monday, which was obviously great. But I knew a couple of people that had moved, a bunch of people had moved to different companies, and a couple had moved to Blitz. So I got into put in a good word and came through for an interview and got a job there. And spent 9 years working on loads of different things at Blitz.
Which was your most favourite game that you worked on at Blitz?
That's a good question because it's a toss-up between two things for completely different reasons.
Okay, cool.
One that was amazing to work on was Dead to Rights Retribution. That was like a 3-year project, so I learned a lot on that and worked my way up from designer up to design manager on or design lead on the DLC, and then to design manager. So did a lot of learning and a lot of figuring out how I like to make games, essentially. And it was a nice combination of punching and shooting, so it brought me back to Streets of Rage.
Streets of Rage.
That was pretty cool. And I think we got a really nice balance on the DLC of a good way of doing it.
Because there was some really nice DLC as well connected to that. And one of my favourite parts of that game was playing the dog. Where you could like sneak around and use your senses to get you around the game, which was really nice. And then grab people and bring them down. And also there was a testicle kill, wasn't there? Yeah. Which was
scrotality achievement as well.
Scrotality achievement.
Very proud of that.
Which was really cool.
So there's that, and there's also SpongeBob Surf and Skate Road Trip, and you wouldn't expect that to be one that anyone's particularly proud of. But we had a small team. We had 6 months, and we had to make a controlled surfing and skateboarding game, and didn't have the time or resources to do it, but tried to figure out the sort of tightest, coolest game we could think of, and basically made Sonic 2 bonus stage the tribute album. Do you know what I mean? So it actually came out a good fun game. Given the time and resources available, we did absolutely the best we could, and had a good laugh doing it as well.
No, cool. I mean, I found it like a really good company to meet great people and learn a lot of stuff when I was there. Okay, let's talk about influences. What are your influences in life, like visual influences and stuff like that, that helped you along your game development?
Well, one thing I've always been super duper interested in is story theory. That's come from having an interest in mythology and stuff like that, and then trying to understand where that came from, and then understand, alright, if mythology tells the same basic set of stories, why do we need those stories? And sort of drilling right down and researching everything I can on story theory. The reason that's a big influence is that a story can be any size. It can be like the size of an advert, it can be like a 12-hour musical epic. That's fine. Those are both valid stories, but like the core loop in a game is a little loop story as well. So looking at how you can draw out a nice little narrative each time you pick up the controller or play the game, or tap the screen or whatever, that's always been a really interesting thing. And then the games that I mentioned as well are all big influences. I've always liked sort of procedurally generated games as well, where people take sort of the handcrafted rules of game design and try and turn them into something that generates itself. So Toe Jam and Earl, the Mega Drive classic.
Toe Jam, really brilliant. I mean, I used to like. I'm a big fan of Earthworm Jim, which was always really cool. As a cartoon as well. Okay, so you go there. You've now we've moved to Radiant Worlds. You're working on this fantastic project called SkySaga. How has that been for you?
It's been amazing. But it's been a brain melter, because we're trying to do something I've not seen before. There's elements that we can draw from different influences, different places, and I do like to play as many games as I can, watch films and read books and harvest concepts and then see if they can fit. So there's loads of bits and pieces there, but things like the adventure director, so guaranteeing that you've got a procedural environment that's got a cool adventure to it, and plugging game systems together in ways that means that we make a small amount of content, but that turned into a big amount of fun for the player. It's a complete shift in how you approach game development. You try and turn yourself into code and let the little virtual you run around and design a game for people on the fly. So that's pretty interesting. And the combination of MMO and sandbox gameplay, I've not seen much of that around.
No, that's kind of cool, isn't it? Also, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye as well. You've got the PvP side to it as well, which I think is an important factor to it. I mean, just looking at the character design is absolutely hysterical. So for you, what's the most exciting feature of this game? Because I think it's a kind of tough one to ask. Because
there's so much of it's cool. And I spend a lot of time in serious, stressful meetings, and then we do a thing that works really well, and I run like an excited schoolgirl at someone's desk and go, I did a thing and it was amazing. But the best example of that is the adventure director, because it's a way of pulling together all the bits of the game so that there's... It's like having a little Richard O'Brien from the Crystal Maze running around in the background, just making sure you're having a cool experience. And I've seen things a bit like it. So Spelunky has procedurally generated, to an extent, environments that still have a sense of pace to them. Rogue Legacy as well. So there's a bunch of games that have done things a bit like this, but nothing quite like this.
Yeah.
And the fact that it extends to things like PvP and can procedurally generate a deathmatch arena or a capture the flag arena. It's pretty cool.
So how did you just come back from G-Star? That must have been an amazing event for you, because obviously you've, as we said in before, it's normally E3 and stuff like that. But how did you take G-Star? Was it overwhelming?
It was, yes, it was overwhelming, but it was amazing. It was very, very cool. Interesting to see how the sort of game culture is different in Korea to over here, and it was very exciting to see people getting so excited about the game and asking very specific questions, trying to wrap their head around exactly what the game is.
Okay, yeah.
Because it's a bit like a whole bunch of different things, but it's also its own thing as well. Yeah. So a lot of the process was helping people figure out exactly what the game is, but answering questions on stage about the game and having them translated to and from Korean and stuff like that. It was good fun.
What was your favourite part of the event? Because it must have been something that just went, oh, that's really cool.
Well, the stand we had was pretty awesome. There was great big fiberglass, I guess, statues of the main character, or some of the main characters, but with faces cut out so you can stick your head through. That was cool. I wore my kilt.
There is a picture of that which I'm going to put up. You'll see it now.
That got a pretty positive reception, because I don't think many people rock the kilt in Korea. It was my lovely black leather kilt as well, so very stylish. That was good fun. It was amazing seeing how excited Smilegate are about the game as well, because the stand was very interactive and tactile and captured the spirit of the game in a way that shows that we're all trying to make the same thing, and that was pretty awesome. Oh,
that's fantastic. Okay, so just to round this up, can you tell us anything that obviously we're allowed to know? Is there anything secret we can let loose?
What about the game?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, so the version of the game that's live just now is like a technical test. So the idea is just to make sure that it doesn't crash too much when you're trying to play, so we can flush out those basic technical things. But people do seem to be enjoying the little slice of gameplay that's in there, and it is fun to do stuff like, I built a giant monkey head on my home island. It's cool to be able to do that sort of thing already, but the sort of slices of gameplay fun that are in there, it's really the thinnest layer of that sort of thing that we could possibly put in, just so we can do a technical test. We've got more stuff planned, we've got more stuff done and almost ready to release. So what I'm looking forward to is the sort of next pass, Alpha 2, where more things will be in there for the players to discover and explore.
That's fantastic.
And what we're going to try and do is let players try and set it up in a way that players can discover the stuff for themselves. We don't want to push it in people's faces too much. We want part of the story of the game to be the people that discover the things. That's pretty cool. All these experiments and these ways of making the community as integrated as possible, super exciting.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, I've got to say, Ben, thanks very much for coming along.
No problem.
Guys, thanks very much for watching. Watch out for more videos coming up on SkySaga, and I'll see you soon.